I will press on the recording. Hi. Okay, so we are officially recording the third traveling show event at Marin Poetry Center. I'm very happy to have you all joining us today, July 10th. And we are starting our summer with another set of 6 great readers, poets. The order is going to be Grace Marie Grafton, then Barbara Swift Brauer, then Marie Henry, then Anne Robinson, and then follow up with Kate Peper, and then the last one will be Cathy Shea. So, to start, Grace Marie, my name is Anne Huang, and then Grace Marie Grafton, take it over.
Okay. So, Anne, am I supposed to be as the speaker, showing as the speaker now? Or am I showing as the speaker to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, good. First, I want to say thank you to the Marin County Poetry Center for this wonderful series that happens each year. And I'm going to read a few poems that are from fairly recent years. I have not collected them in any kind of order or book yet, but I do find that these poems share the theme of trying to find a constructive way through the dark night of the soul that unfortunately we humans have created for ourselves in this era. So as you listen, if you have that theme in mind, it might help to. I'm a little nervous right now, so let me just take a breath. Okay, this is the first poem of this series. To write a poem, you must first store your memories on the peg where the old clothes hang. You must put on the clothes, walk into the city, sit on a street corner, hold out your tin cup. Listen to the ringing sound as coins drop. Offer the street sheet that holds your old poems. Do not be dismayed if no one takes your offer. Listen to the trolley passing. Hold up a sign that says, in worn lettering, we'll write a poem for a pen, and another for paper. Be prepared for time to stretch and bend while you wait with the pigeons and rain. It will come. It will look like something you've never seen before. It will sound like the same word you've heard again. Space. We floated in the womb. Was it a facsimile of space? Were we an inner astronaut? Are we aiming in our inordinate desire to duplicate initial experience, to be an astronaut, perhaps as near to being an angel as we can? Where does life come from? Slipping into ovum, sperm, root, or seed. From some outer breath, a waft of formlessness that wishes for form, as we, already formed, wish to float away from body and time. Yet, probably, want still to know, or to feel, what it's like to be an angel. Fairy tales. How can I remember where I hid the formula for weaving the spell that will rescue my loved ones from snares laid on our paths by the little-brained animals of slippage and sloth? The formula passed on to me from Glinda the Good, when I was 9 and couldn't yet fathom the gulf between cruel and kind. I just wanted to run faster than the boy who always beat me, wanted to be a cowboy, or at least to have the horse. The formula, the spell, the magic power of the word, practice of the alphabet in cursive, posted on the classroom wall. Teacher who got to tell all the kids what to do and the way to enlist the power of myth. I'm still trying to figure it out, long after I've learned how to wear the beautiful embroidered dress. Magnetic attraction. Bury the telltale magnet under the bridge where it will attract the flimsy excuses each story fabricates in order to forestall the required chores, the small jobs, the everyday dusting meant to bore you to death. Who is the you? Who tells the tale? Which board carries the key? Which bridge are we talking about? Where did the lumber and the concrete come from? When was it built? Because who had the table of waters to know when they flowed? Which driver drove the yellow Chevrolet across the boards that couldn't last forever? Pray for a little bit longer. Pray for making it to the opposite bank and dumping the load under the pomegranate tree, or the elderberry bush, or the original oak, or into the treasure chest beneath the slide, beside the wings, and the ladder leading to the trail up the bluff. And when flat land is reached, reach into your pocket, whoever you are, and show us what you find there. The day. The day going on its own through science and humanity, through narrow eulogies of mountain range and rain and thin-skinned pear's ripe moment. The genie of day says every word there is to say. If only her thrust and clamber could remember, sky continually breaks open, or doesn't break, continues to evoke itself, or be astir. But here, candle flame within her room, elm leaf, bay leaf, squirrel without, held in her hand and can't be held. Each object she values is principally air, and will return to air. Stones fall from space. She, as artificer, makes nothing, sits in the center of no thing, is herself, and lives with her dear others, pen and its ink, paper, many papers, lamp and its electricity, the delicate leaves of the maidenhair fern, emitting water molecules she can't perceive, but they touch her skin. Comforting the heart. In case your hair falls out, keep something tasty nearby. A ripe plum, a dried apricot, the memory of warm weather. In case boils break out, walk each day near the river. Lie down on the new grass at river's edge, smooth, cool. In case your breath stops, make sure the window opens easily, with room to stretch your hand into the airy aperture. In case you lose your voice, hold in mind the word fly. Look for summer's bare sky and flap your arms like wings. In case spring disappears, always carry binoculars and the sound of blooming blossoms tucked into your shirt pocket. This is my last poem. I'm left with the honeybee climbs head first into the pollen-laden bloom. A good fit, a delirious trip, a heavenly scent. Yellow essentials decorate the world. More than decorate. Be and embody. And the nectar eventually gives sun its hue and dew. What more is there to say? It takes many days to make the maze of hive. I'm left with questions. Where do they get the wax to fashion the combs? How long do they live? How do they feel when the hive is harvested? Oh dear. How much of the nectar they gather are they allowed to eat? How happy does it make them? How can we repay what we owe them? Are we crazy enough to let them all die? Thank you.
Very beautiful. Thank you. Magnetic attraction, Grace Marie, the yew, the pomegranate, the oak, and then all the questioning. It's so beautiful to hear you read. Thank you so much for your time. And then our next reader will be Barbara Swift Brauer. Barbara, take it away.
I'll unmute. Anyway, I don't see my image on the screen. Is that do I need to do something?
I can see you. Yeah, you are good. You're on a speaker view.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor and pleasure to be here once again, reading for the traveling show. I have sort of a hodgepodge of poems, recent poems, except for one nostalgic poem. And my first is No Coin for the Ferryman. I want to write about the small boats lined up along the shore of the Sierra Lake of that summer of drought. When Tahoe burned, Kings Canyon and Redding, when hope was missing everywhere. How they remind me of Haiti's darkened rivers, not Charon's Landing where the dead gather coins in their mouths to pay their passage across, but farther along the bank where the others, the suicides, the dispossessed, who come with no coin for the ferryman, might discover a row of just such boats, too narrow for anything more than a soul's width. And there in the solitary dark, step in gingerly as the vessel rocks, lurches, moves off from shore. Do they reach for the oars, hoping still to row their own way across? Or, as I think, do they drift, continually drift at the mercy of the slow current? And so remain all the while gazing on the far shore at the welcomed arrival of ferried souls. And this second one dates me because in 1967, Chicago received a beautiful, huge statue from Picasso to put outside of City Hall. And immediately everybody was very upset. And I was just reading about it. The year was 1967. And I was in high school, and I remember the fuss. And I remember that high school students were supposed to write essays and blah, blah, blah. Well, I didn't write an essay, so 50 some years later, here's my poem. Woman, Horse, Angel, Chicago, Picasso. And I'll dedicate this to Pam Miller, who's high school classmate tuning in today. Why all the fuss? That statue of wings, face of an angel, a horse, never asked for a name or permission. Fashioned from Gary steel furnaces across the lake, it belonged to the world I was not in charge of, like Vietnam, assassinations, and riots. As I was busy growing and becoming, Chicago shouldered on with its notoriety, architecture, and guns, until I left the city with a shrug, its blue lake, its snow and freezing light. Long years before I returned to pack my parents into their crates for eternity. All those years, it never asked for permission, nor did I. This next poem, written in that amorphous state we've been in for a couple of years, months and months. It's called The Actress Wants Back on Stage. Around me, the light so low, I can't see the boundaries, where the stage begins, where wall and ceiling meet. Distance is a hazardous guess. What I know is that the stage is empty. I step forward. Line, I call into the darkness. Silence. Where's my light? The stage remains dark. I try to remember where in the play we are, how far into the plot. Have the bickering couple discovered they are the lovers? Has the villain been revealed? Everything's been on hold for so long. I'm standing in the dark, waiting for cues. And this next one and the one after it, I begin in reality and I sort of go from there. So this one is called Forget the Moon Roof. My neighbor is a big man with a Ringling Brothers mustache who drives a smart car, one of those unique demi-tasse affairs out of Europe. I don't know how he fits in there, clown style, but zip, zip, up he goes to that street called Sunshine that is always in shade. Some people try to fit into places they just shouldn't. Maybe he's thinking gas mileage, thinking parking, not thinking long-term and how it will be down the road, all that folding, unfolding of his hunching spine. You understand what I'm saying. It's this. Shopping for a car and a man are a lot alike. When it comes to that sweetheart, you'll say, until death do us. Don't get hung up on the moonroof, the around sound audio. Consider instead the road ahead, 30, 40 years and more. Go for all-weather terrain. Think reliability, handling on the curves, and shocks for those bumpy patches. Take your time deciding. Don't forget to check under the hood. Be sure to kick the tires. And this is another, I guess, analogy between physical thing and it's called diminishing capacity. Our own supply chain story I joked when the refrigerator ordered in November wasn't here by February, March, even April. Finally delivered, it was squat, short on shelves, long on personality. Like a recalcitrant 2-year-old, it says, I won't. Unpacking this morning's groceries is a puzzle. Top short shelf refuses the apple juice, too tall. We make trade-offs, the ginger ale in favor of the mayonnaise, maple syrup for salad dressing, the milk in a dose of dough with the orange juice. Condiments wandered to the main shelves, cozy up to the pork chops, act as if they're what's for dinner. Lately, this is not my only battle. You're not getting any younger, says the mirror. I consider my wish list, the writer's residency in Denali, a trek on the PCT, an archaeological dig in Belize. Think shorter, the calendar says, and sooner. Settled for domestic, advises my checkbook. Maui, not Morocco, fall foliage, not African safari. You won't have to pack nearly as much, offer the knees, so much less to carry. And I want to end with a seasonal poem, one that is always appropriate this time of year in San Geronimo Valley, when the blackberries become ripe and people walk up and down with their containers. Well, I never did. I just go walking and say, uh-oh, blackberries. So this is called Seduction. The blackberries have stopped you, and in spite of yourself, you will walk no farther tonight. Instead, with nothing more than the palm of your hand, you give in, cupping the soft fruit in one hand, reaching into the tangle with the other, snagging a sleeve, scratching a wrist. Don't worry, you will not be here long. Before you know it, this will be years past. Your knees will nag, and the hill will be too steep, the evening chill uninviting. No, the inconvenient succulence of this event comes only once and only now. Okay, thank you very much.
Great poem to end. Very nice, Barbara. Wonderful read, and there's so much humor in your poems. I really love the moon roof poem, the street called Sunshine, but always in shade. You know, so many contradictions, and your grocery shopping items, lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now we will welcome Marie Henry. Take it over, Marie Henry.
Okay. So nice to be here among all these wonderful poets and poet lovers. I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote for my blues harp teacher, Dave Harp, who came into class one night and he was just totally riled and distraught because he'd just come from hearing a talk by Helen Caldecott. Little musical accompaniment here. Mouth Harp Man. He put the harp up to his mouth and blew until the fog came rolling out. Then he sucked at the night moon, bending it, pulling the notes in like a harvest against his teeth, slashed the dark, then crept around on his knees, the black and blues tumbling out. He talked about the daughter he doesn't have yet, and how he won't have to warn her about getting cavities because she might not be around that long. He said, Some nuclear man is gonna pull the switch and blow us all sky high. And there ain't nothing he can do about it except to play his harmonica. We put our harps up to our lips, drew in as if we could save the world, bending the notes long and dry, curling our tongues back like the winter wolves, howling before we all disappear. Okay. And let's see. My next poem, gotta get organized here. I want to pay tribute to and honor the memory of the beloved poet Jerry DiGiorno, her sister, bartender, or bar owner and poet Nancy Keene, and San Francisco's famed 3300 Club. And here's one of the publications they put out, and that's Jerry and Nancy back in the, I'm not sure, 50s probably. So this is a narrative poem, tell a story. The air thick with everything. So here I am at Keene's 3300 Club on Mission and 29th. Been around forever, just about, since it got rebuilt after the 1906 earthquake. The decor hasn't changed in probably 40 years. The bar's only disappearing act was during Prohibition, when it did a stint as a bank. I'm here for a poetry reading of all things. Like they say, Jack Keene's probably turning over in his grave, but his widow Nancy had poetry in her soul and started up a reading series. So a bunch of us poets are gathered at one end of the bar when a boozy swaggerer barges into our midst, ranting about, do we know who Noam Chomsky is and how he got blacklisted? The guy's so hyped up, I ask if there's any way we can downshift him into a lower gear. Then Nancy's showing us pictures on the wall from the 40s and 50s and telling us about Ducky Mahoney, Dutch Burger, and all the old regulars who are starting to drop like flies. The cigarette smoke is so thick, I pull up my wool muffler to veil my mouth and nose, which gets the Noam Chomsky guy wondering how we all got suddenly transported to the Middle East. Jerry and Peter start reading their poems, and the regulars couldn't have imagined anything like it a few years back. But the air's thick with poetry, and everyone is listening. Until some kind of hell breaks loose down at the other end. Not that we can really see through the smoke, but it appears somebody's just walked into the bar and a bunch of the guys have jumped up out of their seats to take him on. They're all yelling back and forth when we hear him utter, kind of cool like, are you looking for nose trouble? Robin dives into her purse for a pen. She's not about to let a great line like that get away. The readings come to a complete standstill, and we're half holding our breath, waiting for what'll come next. I'm not talking to you guys. I'll talk to the bar owner, but I'm not talking to you guys. Nancy makes her way to the other end of the bar. We'll never know what she said to him, but there he is, walking out the door, as quiet as you please. Peter picks up where he left off when he introduces his poem about breasts, The Noam Chomsky guy gets even more revved up than before, abandons his bar stool and plants himself in the booth nearest the mic, then bursts out into a kind of sign language dance as he laps up Peter's words. At the end of the poem, the guy starts to light a cigarette, but Molly asks him not to, and he slumps out of the booth, curiously, though temporarily deflated, goes back to order another drink at the bar. A few more of us take turns at the mic, and when I read a poem of mine that's erotic and funny at the same time, even though it's all about food, a voice calls out from the other end, "Is there a cold shower around?" I'm wondering, was it dangerous reading a poem like that in a place like this? But if I were reading in a bookstore, I doubt I'd ever get a compliment as supreme as that. Jerry and I are the last poets to leave. Out on the sidewalk, I breathe in Mission Street and its cold night air. It'll take weeks to get the smell of cigarettes out of my clothes. Sure. And my final poem, this one's for Jack Hirschman, whom we lost last year. Bronx-born poet, Marxist, social activist, former San Francisco poet laureate, and character who held court in North Beach cafes. This poem was inspired by a night at Vesuvio's. Cafe Jack, for Jack Hirschman. I was spinning poems in a persimmon tree, eating a pork chop, when Jack appeared saying, "Look inside your left ear and you'll find a message." "No, Jack," I said, "I can't find anything there." "That's strange," she replied. "Then check between your toes." And sure enough, there it was. "But I can't read Russian, Jack." "Oh, yes, you can." And he began a 2-hour spiel on Mayakovsky and fascism and narcolepsy. "Is that what the message said?" I asked him, still sitting in my persimmon tree. "What message?" he replied. I tossed him a persimmon and he hid it in his sock. "Throw me another." He plucked out its stem, stuck in his thumb, and pulled something out. "What's that?" I asked. "It's a diamond from a schoolyard fence." He held it up to his eye like a kaleidoscope and got so lost in it, I couldn't find him for a week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful reading. I think we all loved your first poem reading. Very acoustic, beautiful harmonica play. Beautiful, Marie. Your reading is very, 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 very deep with us. So next reader and poet, we will welcome Anne Robinson. Take it away.
It's so good to see everyone. Can you hear me? Okay.
We can't see you though. Can you? You're so low. That's much better.
Okay.
Oh, she has a face.
I don't want you to see the dirt on my floor if I get too low. Okay. Wind turbines at Altamont Pass in August. Each blade becomes a sword. Hawk's wing caught on an edge. Golden eagle on spinning points. Vulture, dark angel without a face. Yellows and browns float down to the grassy floor. As I stand by the side of the road, my binoculars and calibrations, air becomes sinister in this region. machines mining light with wind. The lift and drag of 23 spinners like giant carnival pinwheels. What do I owe you? Monumental turbines, you grow taller and taller at 102 degrees, holding up the sky until the heavens part and a new God, jubilant and steel, breaks down our surfaces. My next poem is Elegy of a Pandemic. My eyes are getting really bad. Our fevers brighten the walls, cold like Arctic wind. When they came to get us, we were already dying. They slammed through our doors, took our beautiful belongings. Our children ran to the woods. Others fleeing on the main road. Our prayers were long gone. They threw sheets over our bodies. We were cliches hidden in someone's backstory. We were here then yonder. Never did I think I'd be so close to knowing what I now know. You dream a little, laugh, cry in a blur. Memory holds like armor. The trumpet vines last March steeped in sun. That walk in mud on an April day. You ride out that evening on your first kiss. Close in on your stillness. The baby Gran whose keys you held so long in sunlight, still playing deep inside. Well, I'm on a depressing jag. Here's a lighter poem, Ode to an Explanation Point. You meet me at the bar a little late, but you quicken my slur. You stand on a beat up bar stool, your vertical arrows ending each sentence. And yes, after 6 drinks, I'm in love with your wild hair, short feet, your impatience with the middle of anything. You leap ahead of my sentences, give me some fizz, ending my story of a burning house, saved in infants and cats, and me not even a fireman. You stay with me, loyal dart, artful string. You stalk me like a lover. Because of you, I view myself as astonishment. Because of you, I don't close my eyes. The next is a narrative poem. I own a farming operation, small, in Arkansas. The future, and on a 170-acre farm, my father left me. Beavers have come in with the floods, engineered a dam across the lower end of my soybean field, sticks and brush constructed with geologic contrivance, young and full of sass, working their hearts out and eating my uncut beans. My tenant farmer wants to dynamite their dams. It's either this, them or us, he explains with a sheaf of unpaid bills. It's uncertain who's right. And even though the critter's now on the back end of my fields, my tenant has to eat with 5 kids at the table. The beavers are still there after 4 months, while the tractor idles in the turn rows. Mud wrapped around my boots and my tenant chain smoking out his truck window. I say this without metaphor, just plain talk. The beaver is a craftsman, gnawing away with precision. Babies coming in spring and the chambers underwater. I close my eyes on the drenched fields and future. Let us begin again, the beavers seem to say, what you ended so long ago. I just came back from Arkansas and I wrote this poem Friday, so it's rough, but I was inspired by my family. Rockets. My brother-in-law understood the irrigation of crops, the rupture in pipelines. The land opened up under his welder's hands. He fixed wells no one else could, water flowed, burrowed, and clean. A union man who once worked on rocket frames for NASA, any day bathed in dirt and sun. The nights of Jack Daniels and Netflix gave him another stake. The rages flew across the room like dark birds. He could startle the wind with curses. Nothing was what he wanted. Sometimes he forgot words, the mind airless, television and closed captions, and still the blankness in his eyes, as if he understands only what he could build with his hands. His silences lingered in black space, beyond the propulsion of rockets, the fiery tails marking a new field. The next poem is The Sounding of Peace. Across the twilight, the air burning bright with April, the fields, the trees bending, the great egret skimming Miller's Pond, the youths running down the banks of clear rivers, the boys and girls on the hoods of cars, moon resting on a lover's arms. Beyond my father raising his martini this last time, the blue notion of forgiveness, the otherness of regret. Here on the gray mountain, the sphere of clouds, the splinter of heaven, I'm standing in this unexpected silence, this grace. I feel so wrecked and yes, so alive. And my last poem, I can't figure out a title. I'll call it Wind. You traveled some distance and you are haunted by the landscape of your hometown. Perhaps it is sorrow like a fine cloth that has kept you away. The car stops here. The wind is subtle, almost imaginary. You are aware of softness, how the leaves lift and the peach branches in your front yard sway like something not touching the ground. Except for the small house with the minaret windows, the door that opens against a half moon, the light through the walls. But you are still caught in that airy place, not touching surfaces. With paper you write in your old room, listening, all the pores open. The wind is still around you, cans rolling from a turned over garbage. The way the world calls up ugliness and beauty. Sorrow wasn't meant to be eternal. As when you were young, as when you were just beginning to step into the shadows, maybe you stopped in at the wrong place or time because the very act of living tore at you. And the fruit, the old bedroom, the car that shudders in the driveway, even the wind is time. Weren't you in love once? That is time. Your eyes gazing straight ahead. That is the story I want to tell. Thank you.
Beautiful and very nice. You paint your landscape with such a beautiful precision. Your words are very, very, very beautiful. Because of your work, we can close our eyes, I would say. Very nice. Thank you so much. And then we will have our next reader, Kate Peper. Kate, take it away.
Hi, I'm trying to paste my wonderful little bio in, but you know who I am. And sorry about that. Thank you again for juggling people and wants and desires to get into the very coveted traveling show. And that's really quite a job. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see. I'm going to start with a poem that I think I just finished. It's called Irreconcilable Differences. The Kate the world sees and calls creative has hair like a hurricane and doesn't own an iron. That Kate jots a line about clowns, a sudden downpour and balloons, folds the paper and tosses it across the table where her deliberate self reads, then tilts her head and sighs, "You're trying too hard." That Kate writes subject, verb, object, in legible cursive, then refolds the sheet with a neat crease. Every other line seems to stalk the line before it. Her creative self can't stand the other's smugness. Just this morning, another to-do list placed over her pile of poems, and someone crossed out chocolate and on the whiteboard wrote cantaloupe. She's so unfun, she thinks, snatching the paper but hesitating. Aha, deliberate Kate cries. Will you think before you write? Creative Kate shakes her head, starts jabbing the pen like an ice pick, chiseling each word. No wonder I get nothing done, Kate thinks. Tomorrow part of me will hum, content to fold laundry, while my other half tells me to leave it and look at the wind-tossed blouse on the line, sleeve looped into a smile. And this next poem, I never knew what an etui was, and then I did, and I thought, wow, what an awesome thing. It's a small box for sewing needles, cosmetics, and other articles, in case you didn't know either. I just like saying it, etui. First layers of safety pins, a dinged thimble, baby's tooth etched in blood, then marbles of steel and glass, bottle caps, until a last frail layer of blue paper, an envelope postmarked Amsterdam. Inside his goodbye letter, a photo of you laughing in front of the Martini Kirk, a lira coin for the Trevi fountain he never took you to, and mandarin seeds, pinched with desiccation. Pick one up. Remember when he held you down in that hotel room in Brussels? You were already shattered. Bad love can happen anywhere. His hand over your mouth as he forced himself. You squeezed your eyes shut, thought of that pyramid of mandarins just below the hotel. How carefully each small globe was stacked one on top of another. You thought to yourself, if you made it out alive, you'd eat one. And this is a more recent poem that's about those rare, at least these days, rare but so wonderful moments when absolutely nothing happens. And I thought they needed some praise. So this is called Ode to the Moment When Nothing Happens. Thank you for this, mild sunshine in my arms, the even pox from a hidden tennis court. You undress my fears. You are a scaffold built from all my exhales. Somewhere, someone's cocking a gun with its safety off. A boy is yanked under a sneaker wave. Male thunks onto the floor of a home only feet away from a woman's body. I've known moments of helplessness when fear stutters my heart's beating. It's my limbs flailing, my lungs burning. Those moments of everything bad happening seem to stay for days. Then I pray for your coming, dear moment when nothing happens. Bring your blandness, I plead, even your pal, boredom. Take up residence, spread out, stay a while. And here you are now. A Steller's jay occasionally dazzles the air. My dog shrugs off the afternoon, her limbs twitch, dream squirrel. I lie back, well thumb mystery in hand, the air full of reprieve. And there's some poems that take you decades to write, or at least decades to form in something manageable on the page. This is about my father's death. It's called Father's Aneurysm. That week you told us your pain was a needle so thin, it slivered up your neck. and coiled around your molars. The ache huddled there, a burden you bore during the day, but at night it took its sweet time gnawing holes into your resolve. Doctors shrugged their white shoulders, offered pills, yet that pain, once a mere prick, you said, grew into a galaxy of teeth, chomping the soft matter of your brain. Morning came, your body thrashed so hard with convulsions, it had to be lashed to the gurney. My mother, brothers, sisters, I hovered and held hands, breathed the same prayer over your hospital bed. Live. The doctor shook his head. Mother closed her eyes, then bent to kiss your forehead, and we caressed your feet, your hands, your arms, whatever part of you was exposed from under the sheet. One by one, the machines were turned off, leaving you suddenly unmoored and still. My lungs caught that flat antiseptic air. 30 years later, I'm still holding that breath. This next one is a short poem. It's the second to the last poem. And it was about the first date I had with my husband-to-be. And I call him Astro Boy because he likes telescopes and astronomy. And his way of snagging me was showing me Saturn through a telescope. So this is called Saturn. Each time your tongue lets go of my name, a thimble's worth of gold glitters all the way down to that night when you showed me Saturn through your telescope. How could I not fall in love with you then? The black of the sky was huge, and my mouth opened as I put my eye to the lens. How small the planet looked, how carelessly thrown into the night, only to drop as a coin into my silk self. And every time you say my name, my purse brims, where no thief comes near, nor moth. And this last one, a more humorous poem about an afternoon with my friend's gray African parrot named Sabachka, which in Russian means puppy, and me weeding. And it's called, I'm weeding between pieces of astroturf in my vacationing friend's backyard, while her parrot, Sabachka, watches through the screen door. He hates being alone and tries to get my attention by imitating the sounds of his flock here in the suburbs. Doorbell, cell phone, even the smoke alarm. We all get lonely, I think, seeking intimacy with any language we can use. I'm on my knees, gloves on, a bucket nearby, telling him it'll be a while. The bucket fills with chickweed and red maize, same old. Funny how the invasive species seem to hang on the hardest. I pull, dump, inch forward, pull, dump, and get farther away from her pet, who decides to sneeze like my friend as a last resort to lure me back. I tug on a clump of cheatgrass. Ants spurt out of a dirt geyser. I'm sorry, I say out loud, behind me. I'm sorry, in my friend's voice. I laugh, and she laughs. If I close my eyes, I can pretend she's here. I could tell her, now that the seams are cleared of weeds, her fake grass looks real. Look at this, Sabachka, a bucketful, I tell him. He clangs his bell, bobs up and down and cries, woohoo, it's a homer. She's not here, but I hear her thanking me. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Say
you.
hi. Yeah.
Thank you, Kate. Wonderful read. Lovely, lovely, intimate moments that you share with us. Thank you so much. I'm so touched. by your father's passing, I'm actually holding my breath when I was reading that, because it just let me remind me of my mom's passing a few years back. Very, very, thank you. I'm speechless. Thank you so much. And then we had our last reader, Cathy Shea. We will welcome Cathy Shea to the speaker. Bill, please. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This is just an absolutely wonderful reading. I just love it. A boy's name. You could make your son a criminal just by baptizing him the wrong name. Seemed like the gospel truth when I heard gossip for a long time about Carl Chessman on death row. My mom and her friends saying all forms of that man's name are bad. When my son was born, I waited 3 days before calling him the name I'd looked up, having checked history and roots and biblical references. Brian for strong. That's perfect, a nurse said, growing impatient, but doing a good job hiding her eagerness to get on with it, raising her brow ever so slightly while overheard saying, as if a name could make or break a child's destiny. Why'd you name him that for? My mother-in-law, when we tell her. That's Irish. He'll grow up to be a bum. Bad bygone deal. I'm faking a conversation with Blanca, over whom I tower, even in her 3-inch platforms, and whose name derives from her platinum dew with dark roots. She speaks scant English, and I hablo muy poco español. ¿Por qué? Jill Abbott hits my ear familiarly. It seems Blanca learns from soaps, pronounced distinctly the young and the restless, recurs in her no-pause trilling sentences. Mama, vamos a casa now. Her little boy hugs her leg and hides his head under her skirt, which he shouldn't be doing given the proximity to her crotch. Once we visited the house she and esposo Marcos had rented in an upscale neighborhood known for hot tubs and adultery. We explained, chickens are not allowed even in such a nice coop, and it's a crime to butcher roadkill, even deer hit by a Bugatti. A transaction begins between our husbands in the living room, of which I'm not totally ignorant, and Blanca's not oblivious like she pretends. Here comes the product through my kitchen. We're supposed to get rich now by investing in bricks of white powder, plastic wrapped and stinking of gasoline. After I've dumped shaving kit, boxers, and socks onto an oil slick in the street, I'll be on a bus to Starview Estates. After Marcos is disappeared in Bogota, Blanca will be a single mom. Okay, that was rather exciting. The pill versus disaster. He said hi, asked if I were on the pill, although I half feared what that meant. I said yes, which was true enough that day, and within seconds, off we went into the back seat of a car, carefree, another couple chauffeuring, wheelless it felt, floating along the pavement, a grand marquee, ignoring bumps, piloting up Highway 32 toward a fictive trout lodge amid evergreens, where I saw a fireplace stoked for us, antlers pointing, and steelhead trophies lovingly mounted, a queen bed with plumped pillows. He spoke of native brookies and potatoes fried crisp, carafes of California Zen. Into the melting dusk, the eponymous marquee, until hunger and weariness curtailed our seeking. swerving back down the highway, back into town, to a neon sign, a beacon flashing moat, then pizza and warm six-pack. No flour burgers for Baudelaire, no trout fishing getaway. Too early the next morning, the careless car dropped me, blinking and slightly mussed at the back door. We're just about out of time, it looks like. So do I have time for one more? Okay, how about one more poem? Okay. The neighbors act funny. That grinding noise again. Serial numbers off bikes. Empty gas cans and hoses by the tipped garbage can. Shatterproof glasses, proof glass has been shattered. Quiet tears and a small funeral for the caged parakeet. Why do they have all those birds on their porch? In the window, a cracked Madonna, blue-eyed and blonde, very Orion, a real Hummel. The disposable passed like fast food takeout, closet jails for their kids. Somebody ought to call the cops, but the cops have been called too many times. The social worker came waving her handkerchief like a gun loaded with perfume. And that's okay.
Beautiful.
I think I'll leave it at that. So we can
It's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This was terrific.
Thank you, Cathy. It's a great read. It's very very humorous, and then there's a lot of contradictions. But I love all your read. Feel free to add on another poem if you wanted to. But if that you're good, and we are all very good with this. We have concluded all the virtual events of traveling shows this summer. We will have 2 more in-person shows, which will take place in August 7th and 21st. That's going to take place in Marin, organized by Marin Poetry Center, but will take place in Mill Valley Public Library. Okay, so if you are local in the Northern California area, feel free to join us there as well. And I'm very happy to have hosted all 3 virtual events. My colleague Judy and Sandy will be hosting the in-person events since they are local there. And then, I just have a great rest of the summer. I feel very privileged to be part of this the series again, and then have wonderful readers to join us once again. You guys you have a very distinctive voices, and then you have very great insights. I've learned a lot each session that we tune into your reading. So thank you so much for bringing this beautiful summer, these beautiful virtual events. And thank you, we would not have done this without all your wonderful, wonderful reading and your work. Thank you. Have a great afternoon. Okay.
Thank you very much. It was lovely.
Thank you, everyone. This was terrific.
It's
I
beautiful.
loved it.
Yeah. I would just stop the recording.